I'm Sergeant Carla Burr with the Amarillo Police Department, and I'm the Public Information Officer and Crime Prevention Sergeant.
Going on in Minneapolis?
So I feel our department, and I'm going to speak for the Amarillo Police Department, it's a terrible situation, and we pray for justice and for the truth to prevail in that situation. We as a police department don't comment specifically on incidences that happen at other departments in other cities. Since it didn't happen in Amarillo, we pray that it doesn't happen here in Amarillo ever. We don't want to speculate on what their policies, why they did what they did. We will, however, talk to you guys about general questions you have regarding how we make arrests, what we do in use of force incidences, what we do in training in relation to those areas, and as much as I can answer all those questions.
What are y'all doing to keep the same incident from happening here in Amarillo, Texas?
So, one example is every year, every single officer in our department goes through 40 hours of training, so that's a week-long training, and included in that is refreshers on our defensive tactics and how we properly use those things, firearms training, civilian interaction, implicit bias training, and then also crisis intervention, and then whatever the latest changes are, like in updates that the legislature has for us, and then also trends that are happening in the community or in the country. Those things change every year. Some of the things are the same, but we try to stay on top of the latest trends or the latest changes, and then there's requirements that we have to do every year. But like the civilian interaction, it specifically addresses interacting with people that are in a crisis, like I explained earlier with the Sandra Bland incident. And then implicit bias talks about the things that we as humans might have a bias, not necessarily a prejudice, but just things that you naturally see and might not see if you're not from another culture. And so addressing those things and recognizing that about yourself so that you can make decisions and despite something that you might be biased against. So, and then like whatever, I think that's it on that. Sorry.
What would you have done different in the situation that happened there, and if it happened here?
So I can't say again exactly what we would do because it hasn't happened here, but what I can tell you is that if we have an officer who is accused of using excessive force, then there's a process for a citizen to complain, and also anytime that's happened, even if a citizen doesn't complain, if another officer mentions it or there's any kind of anything in the report that makes it look like excessive force, or if force is used, like so an example is if I make an arrest and I have to taser someone, that's force. It's not considered excessive force necessarily, but it is force. So every supervisor has to look over that and make sure that there wasn't excessive force used. So all supervisors evaluate all force used by all of their officers. So that's one way that we try to ensure that that doesn't happen. And then again, there's a way that citizens can complain. You can either come in person and make a complaint, you can do it online, or you can call down and talk to our internal affairs or the supervisor of the officer, depending on what your preference is. All of our patrol officers wear body cams, and we have written down specific rules that they have to use on when they have to be on, and then once they're turned on, they have to stay on until the entire incident is over. Also, all of our patrol cars have them, so it'll have different angles. It have their body cam and then the patrol car and the audio, even if there's not video from, depending on where they were or what was going on. And in addition to that, supervisors randomly check the body cams just for training and also job performance and stuff like that. So there may have been something that gets caught just by accident in some cases.
How do you feel about the riots going on in Minneapolis?
So the riots, I think riots are dangerous for everybody, and it's sad that personal property is being destroyed. But what our department says is, as far as protests and riots, Americans have absolutely every right to have a peaceful protest. It's written into the Constitution. And we've had those here in the past in Amarillo, and we, as the police department, have supported them and made sure that there were no problems with the people protesting and also the people that didn't like the protesting. So we will support those every single time, especially if they contact us ahead of time. We'll make sure that we can be there and be available to make sure that the people that want to protest, even if they are protesting us, can do that in the fashion that they need to, as long as it's peaceful and doesn't interfere with other people's rights. When they become violent or turn to rioting and it causes someone to initially, it causes the initial protests to get lost. Like the whole reason why everyone's upset is because a gentleman lost his life, and now people are getting arrested for looting and tearing up businesses and all that, and this man who lost his life is getting lost in all that, and he needs to be the main cause. So protesting peacefully is wonderful, and I would do it for the right cause myself. But riots and things like that, they're just so dangerous and they hurt people, and it makes me sad that it's happening right now. What we want people to remember and encourage our citizens is to use their rights, to be proactive, but not to infringe on other rights in the process, and that we as the police department will protect all our citizens' rights to the best that we can.
Well, my friend Amari Burns is going to ask you
Okay.
a question.
Ow!
Okay.
As civilians, is there any way that this could have been avoided? Or was that his partner's job?
So our department, we do have instances. We have had instances where there's been excessive force use. We've done discipline, or those officers have been charged. I can't talk about those. Those are like you can submit you can submit for public requests and things like that, but I can't talk about specific instances. But in those, yes, our officers are encouraged, if they see their partners acting in a manner that they know is wrong, to step in and to stop them and take those. But there is also, as a civilian, there are things that you can do. If you see what you consider excessive force, police misconduct, something that they shouldn't be doing, I mean, obviously people were videoing it. That was a great thing for them to be doing. We ask that you don't put yourself in danger by trying to step in and stop them, because we don't want someone else to get hurt. We don't want, I can't reiterate how tragic it is that someone died in this situation, but we don't want another person to get hurt, another innocent civilian to get hurt. So we ask that you call for other police, call for a supervisor, record what's happening at a safe distance, and make sure that you're letting people know what's going on. You can get on the phone with dispatch and say, hey, this is what I see an officer doing, I'm recording it, this is what's happening, this person is in danger, make sure it's clear, I need a supervisor or whatever. So those are steps that you can take that would minimize your risk as a citizen, but still being proactive about it. But yes, our officers, in a case where there might be something like that happen, they have been told that if you see something that's inappropriate, you do have a requirement to act. And if they don't, then they are also held accountable in whatever is deemed that they did not do correctly, either policy-wise, or if there's a law being broken, then they're going to be charged with that as well. And we sadly have had that happen here in Amarillo with officers that have broken the law, been arrested. But there is an investigation process, and I know sometimes people don't understand that. We as officers, we have rights as officers, and so there has to be a process. And so whenever there's an incident, it may not be that the officer gets arrested right away. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen. So we ask that people are patient with that. Come ask questions. Come down to the police department and say, hey, I want to know what's going on. Go to the district attorney's office or the county attorney's office. Hey, what's going on with this? Ask questions. That's your right as a citizen. But if you don't see something happen right away or in the time that you think it should, please don't assume that it's not happening. There is a process that we have to go through.
I think that's all the questions we had.
Okay, you got another one?
Ask any questions.
How are y'all handling the culture, like white people harassing black people?
I mean, if it's harassment of anybody, we're gonna take that seriously. And if there's a criminal offense, then we're going to take a report and we're going to take action in that area. It's just, harassment, unfortunately, under the Texas Penal Code is very difficult to prove, regardless of who it is. Like, I worked domestic violence crimes for 3 years, and would have victims come in and have hundreds of text messages from an ex and try to file a harassment report and not be able to get charges filed against them. And I mean, if you get hundreds of text messages from an ex, that's harassment, right? But so it's difficult. It's a very difficult thing to prove. I think it would probably be easier when we're talking about when it's race related, but it still is going to depend. Also, it also depends on like the county attorney or the city attorney or the district attorney on whether they feel like they can win those cases. Sometimes they don't accept cases if they don't feel like they can win them, and that's unfortunate because we all would like to have our day in court, even if we're not able to get the desire we want. We still want to have that day in court, but sometimes that's how that works. Our new chief, his name is Martin Birkenfeld. He grew up here. He's been with our police department for a long time. He's a really, really good man, and I think he's going to do good things for the police department. But he just wanted me to say that we have a culture of ethical policing at the Amarillo Police Department. Intentional mistreatment of any person has not been tolerated and will not be tolerated. The incomprehensible actions of a small number of officers who violate our ethics do not represent the vast majority of police officers who do excellent work every day. We have a wonderful community in Amarillo, and our police officers will continue to uphold our core values and take good care of the people that we proudly serve.